All right, well, welcome to this interview of our Calfee NOW series, our brand new series from the Government Relations Practice at Calfee, Halter, and Griswold. Today we have my good friend and actually my own personal senator from the 21st District of Ohio, Sandra Williams. Senator, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, very well.
Fantastic. Thank you once again for joining us here. So we're going to start off with some basic questions just to kind of get everybody understanding your district and kind of who you are as a person. So what cities and Cleveland wards kind of encompass your Senate district?
So Senate District 21 is approximately 280,000 people, and I represent the east side of Cleveland, all of the east side of Cleveland with the exception of Ward 1, the Lee and Harvard area. I represent downtown Cleveland as well as the lower west side of Cleveland. So the Tremont area, Ohio City, Old Brooklyn, all of those areas. This district covers all but 5 wards in the city of Cleveland. I also represent Bracknell, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Garfield Heights, and Newburgh Heights.
You got a diverse district there.
It's a very diverse district. It's diverse in income. It's diverse in racial makeup. So it's a lot going on in District 21.
Fantastic. Well, Senator, as you know, I mean, you got to be a special breed to want to be an elected official. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing and kind of what brought you to this point and why you decided you wanted to be an elected official and run for office.
Well, I grew up in the city of Cleveland. My mother and father moved around a lot when I was young, and my mom bought her first house on Buckeye back in 1973. And that's where I spent the rest of my life until I purchased my own home here in the Fair Hill area. So that was my upbringing. I went to Cleveland Public Schools, graduated from John Hay High School, love the Cleveland Public Schools, which is one of the reasons I always advocate for the youth that attend Cleveland Public Schools. For me, when I was a parole officer in Van Wert County, I watched a young man. He was on my parole case, and he was in his GED class. Right after his GED class, he was next door to the GED class playing pool, waiting on his parents to pick him up. The pool ball he was playing with hit the floor. The owner of the pool hall called the police. The police called me that night and wanted me to violate this youth's parole. Why? They said it was an attempted felonious assault, and they wanted to violate his parole to send him back to prison. I myself thought that was extreme, and I told them no. And on Monday, they charged him with felonious assault and shipped him off to prison. And at that point, I said, who is making these crazy laws that you would allow somebody to go to prison for playing pool and the pool ball hit the floor? And he literally was shipped out within a couple of days. So that, I guess, reignited my desire to go into politics and elected office.
Fantastic. And just, I know this, but, just for the listeners here. So kind of how did you, where did you start in the elected process? What was your first elected role? And then kind of how does that work? And how did you get to be a state senator today?
Sure. Well, a little bit about my background. I started out as a corrections officer downtown at the county jail. I did that for 6 years. While I was in college, I graduated from Cleveland State, got a job as a probation officer at juvenile court, and then I got a job I have a job with the Ohio Department of Youth Services as a juvenile parole officer, and that's when I saw that incident. I then trained in DC on managing political campaigns through Participation 2000, a program that Governor Celeste started back here in Ohio, and then it was taken over by Bill Bradley and taken to DC, trained in Emily's List. And so then I said, okay, I'm going into politics. I have all of these skills. And I managed my first political campaign in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Jennifer Schilling is the campaign that I managed, and she is now the minority leader in the state Senate for Wisconsin. So that was my experience. I then came back to Cleveland, got the job with Annie Key, the state representative, and I was her legislative aide for 6 years. After 6 years, she decided to run for the Senate, and I was asked by many of her colleagues, as well as Representative Key, to run to replace her. And I was like, I just wanted to help change the laws. And I was really not thinking about elected office, but they encouraged me and I decided to do it. It was not my original plan. And I ran. I think I had 6 opponents and I won. It was a very interesting process to put everything that I had learned previously to help other people into action. So I served for 8 years in the House of Representatives representing House District 11. And when I was term limited, the Senate District 21 seat was open as well. So I ran for that and I was successful. That's my journey.
Fantastic. I learned a few things there. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So, we talked about the makeup of your district and how diverse it is in income and a lot of things. So, tell me what about, a little bit more about your district. What are some of the assets in your district? What are some of the challenges that you have in your district? And frankly, what are some of the challenges you have representing a district that's so broad and so diverse and, with income and everything else like that?
I would say our biggest asset is our people. Our people are dynamic, they're diverse, they are hardworking individuals, and that would, to me, be our biggest asset. Now, if you want to go to bricks and mortar things, we have our theaters, we have Playhouse Square, we have Severance Hall, we have so many, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we have the greatest hospitals in the world in some cases here right in Senate District 21. We have our lake. We have a lot going on here. We have some of the best companies represented here in Northeast Ohio. So we have a lot going on. We have some challenges though. While we've had a lot of companies who have been successful here, early on with manufacturing and all of that. When those plants closed down some time ago, the remnants of those plants are still here. And they are eyesores in our community. And that's something that I know the city is working on, and I am trying to work on through the legislative process now. We have a high crime rate. That's something that is not independent of any other state, major city, but that's something that we have to address. Guns on our street, murders in our streets every night. It's something that we definitely have to deal with. Joblessness, unemployment, underemployment, low minimum wage in this state is something that has plagued a lot of our low-skilled workers. And that has caused a lot of problems as well. Let's see here. And I would also say, while we have low-skilled workers and we have jobs that need to be filled, we have the people who are ready to fill them, and we have a disconnect between those individuals who need a job and those individuals who have jobs because of the skills that they need to get that job. So that's a problem that I think can easily be fixed. And before I end on that question, I would also say, I have to say our universities. We have Case Western Reserve University. We have Cleveland State University, where I graduated from twice. We have our Cuyahoga Community College, which is one of the best community colleges in the state of Ohio. And I would say, I would put them up against any associate college or junior college in this state, right, or anywhere else. So that's what I would say.
Fantastic. No, that's great. And I think that, that accurately portrays the picture that's going on. So,
and I will say this, when I've traveled across the United States, and I tell you, I was in another country once, and the person said, I love Cleveland. I was in Cleveland for a doctor's appointment. And I was like, what? They came to Cleveland Clinic for surgery. But I went to your theater. You have to have one of the best theaters in the world. And I was amazed that somebody remembered they came here to go to the hospital, but they stayed because they liked our theater. The arts,
right,
cultural, area here in Cleveland, Cuyahoga County is second to none. So I appreciate that.
That's funny. So speaking of challenges, I'm sure you know this challenge all too well, you know, both on the House and the Senate side, there's, you know, Democrats are in the minority, you know, pretty severely in the minority in the House, and I would say pretty severely in the minority in the Senate. So, you know, one thing I've always admired about you, and I think Calfee admires about you, is you've been able to get work done despite that. So, you know, how do you effectively legislate being in the minority like that?
It is very challenging. It's very challenging, but I think what works for me is the fact that once we are at the State House, I put aside partisan politics and I go there to get the job done for the people who elected me. That is the only reason I am in Columbus, to represent the 280,000 some people. The latest numbers are in Senate District 21. So for me, when people bring me an issue that they feel needs to be corrected, I work with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and I explain to them you know, the pros and the cons of this legislation and why it would be beneficial, not only to my district, but the entire state of Ohio. And sometimes it's hard because many of my colleagues have never represented a district such as mine. Many of my colleagues who are in the majority represent very either middle income or wealthy districts. So when I bring challenges to them about high poverty or racism or officer-involved shootings or the need for bias-free policing bills, a need to increase college affordability because many people want to go to college but can't because we have not increased our state share of instruction or the Ohio College Opportunity Grant. Once I explain to them the dynamics of what's happening and it's a legitimate issue and I can prove it, then it's been fairly easy now. There are some people who, regardless of what you tell them, what you show them, just do not support some of the issues that I bring to the table. But where I can find an opportunity for us to work collaboratively on an issue, I make it happen. And so far, it's worked. It's worked a lot. I'm actually surprised at how well it's been working. And it's been shocking. People have said to me that not many Democrats have been able to go to Columbus and get as much done as you do. Not as many Democrats have been able to go to Columbus and bring hundreds of millions of dollars back to the district. Now, let's put aside the arts community. The arts community is supported by Republicans and Democrats. People come from all over our state just to come here to our theaters. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about things such as our ports, being able to finally, in the history of the state of Ohio, get a $20 million line item for them, an operating line item for the Port Authority. That is something that was tried over and over again that was not able to be accomplished. Just money for our schools, money for our communities. So those are the things I think mean a lot and can push our district forward. And my colleagues have been very supportive of me bringing these things back home because they know the impact that it will have on our state. Our state is well connected to other states. We are able to, we have a lot going on. So, and they understand that. But you have to be willing to work across party lines to get it done.
Absolutely, that's great. So speaking of you, I think you kind of touched on some of these things in your last in your answer to my last question. But what are some of your legislative priorities moving forward? And you know, what do you want to accomplish here? You know, as a senator of the 21st district.
Okay. Well, listen, I had to look up. I have so many legislative proposals that I can barely remember them. So a couple of things that I am working on right now, and I hope to get passed into law. One is a civilian interaction bill. The civilian interaction bill is a piece of legislation modeled after legislation or law in Texas after Sandra Bland. And basically, it would teach youth between the grades of 9 and 12 what to do when they're interacting with law enforcement officers, whether you're walking down the street, whether you're driving, whether you're sitting in your home and someone comes to your door. It's basically an opportunity for the youth to understand the law and what their rights are, as well as what should be happening when they are interacting with law enforcement officers. It also requires training of law enforcement officers annually about how they should be interacting and treating civilians in our community. And then finally, there will be a handout or layout in the Bureau of Motor Vehicles handbook teaching people what their rights are as a citizen. So I'm excited about that. I think it will save lives. And with that in mind, I have a couple of other pieces of legislation that I'm working on, and these deal with criminal justice reform. I've been introducing these bills for the last 6 years, and they're slowly moving to the forefront. One deals with the special prosecutor for officer-involved shootings. Right now, Governor DeWine has all of a sudden decided that this might be a good proposal. So he came out in his press conference and said that he wanted to see that bill passed. I have one that would have an attorney in grand jury hearings. That attorney would be separate from the prosecutor and would be there to answer questions for any jurist who actually has a question about the law and whatever else they may have. So that is one of the other bills that I think is very important for the climate that we're in right now. And then a couple of other ones deal with the Clean Ohio Fund. I have a bill that has been sitting in the legislature for a while. When Ohio basically leased its liquor profits to Jobs Ohio, it kind of gave them all of our profits and all of our bonding capability. But I have found a way to actually pay for renewing the Clean Ohio Fund, and that's to deal, to address our brownfield problem here in the state of Ohio. So I talked about those properties and those old manufacturing firms that were here from the 1930s and the 1940s that are just plaguing our community. If we can renew the Clean Ohio Fund, we will be able to get the necessary funds back into our district to get rid of some of these blighted areas and then attract other companies into our region. I think that's very important, not just for the safety of our region, but also for the citizens to be able to come and go to work in their own community with real jobs that pay a real living wage. So that's another thing. And then we have to talk about training. I mentioned that before. I have a proposal in the legislature that deals with training youth on in-demand jobs before they leave school. One of the biggest problems we have is affordability of college. And so we have children spending 12 years, 13 years, sometimes 14 years if they go to kindergarten, preschool, in school. And when they graduate, they don't have a skill that will give them the ability to go out and get a job that pays a living wage. This has been done in other states, and I know we can do it in Ohio when we work with companies within our region and we make sure that those individuals come out with a industry recognized credential and that they are ready on day one to go into a company and be a productive member of that company. That's very important to me, and I think it will help out with our poverty rate, since we are #1 in poverty for a mid-sized city. I think that would help out a lot, and it will allow people who are facing other issues such as being on public assistance and not being able to go over a certain amount of money before you fall over the benefit cliffs. That's a real issue that I am working on, the benefit cliffs. And then finally, I would say this. Our city is doing great for a lot of people. We have a lot of people moving back into the Cleveland, Northeast Ohio area. And we have a lot of people with wealth moving into these districts. And when you have people with wealth moving into the district, they want bigger and better and more expensive houses. And what happens? Property values go up. When property values go up, the folks who have been here for 10 or 20 years are not able to afford their taxes. And so that's a real issue I've been working with many constituent groups on. So a proposal that I have in the legislature right now would say that if you have been a resident in a district for 10 years or more, your property taxes will be capped at no more than 10% of an increase every year. That will help out a lot of people who have found themselves unable to pay their taxes. And when you don't pay your taxes in this state, you can have your home taken away from you. They can sell your tax bill, just like they can sell your water bill. So my goal is to keep people in their homes as long as possible.
So you don't have much going on, it sounds like that, huh?
You know, I love this job because it gives me the opportunity to work on so many things that are very important. Right now, we are working on education funding reform. Education funding has been a top priority for me and others, and we've never really been able to get it done. When I think back in 2008, 2009, we changed the law for 2 years, and we switched up parties and it switched back again. And that's something that has been challenging for a lot of people, given the number of people who are taking advantage of vouchers and taking advantage of charter schools and all the other opportunities we have for education here in our state. So it's causing it's just a big challenge for school districts, and it's a challenge for parents. And so we're working on that. Hopefully we'll come up with a proposal that everybody can agree on, or at least 50+1 can agree on, so that we can make some changes, especially to Cleveland. We have the Cleveland Scholarship Program, as you know, which allows people in the Cleveland schools to take advantage of other private and parochial schools. But what the legislature did a few years ago is they took additional money, another $20 million or $30 million, and put it in a line item just in case somebody chose to go. Now, they usually count people, the state counts people in October. So my philosophy is if nobody has used that money at the end of October, then we should transfer that money back into the Cleveland schools. Maybe if you did that, we wouldn't need all these levies that we're trying to get passed right now. So I guess that's another issue. I ran on with that question, but it's just
that's great.
Fun, and there are so many challenges that this state faces, and it's just an exciting time to be in the legislature.
No, I know our listeners are going to appreciate that and that detail. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So I guess in conclusion and wrapping up, understanding that this is our podcast for our clients and, Calfee's lawyer base, and frankly, anybody else who listens. Do you have any final words for anybody or anything you want to just say to wrap up in conclusion?
Well, I would say this. Being a legislator is a very honorable position, and it's a position where you can have a lot of impact on the lives of people in our community. And so I believe learning more about the clients that you all represent, keeping me informed and other legislators is one way for us to be able to make good decisions when it comes to companies in the state of Ohio. We get information from people all the time, but it's more important for me to hear directly from the companies that are impacted by the laws that we make. So keeping in close contact with me and in close contact with my colleagues is a good way for us to make sound policy for the citizens and the companies in the state of Ohio. So, and I appreciate what you guys always do, and continue to look forward to working with you.
Fantastic. Well, Senator Williams, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And I know we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.